All right, get ready because we're diving deep into ancient wisdom today. Proverbs, chapters 28 through 31, it's quite a selection.
Oh, yeah.
You've picked out some verses that cover so much morality, wealth, even family stuff and leadership, you name it. We're going to help unearth those timeless gems and figure out how they still apply to us today.
It really is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
How these little sayings from, what, thousands of years ago
Mm-hmm.
still resonate. They're like tweets from ancient sages giving advice on all of life's challenges. And what's so interesting about these chapters is we get more than just the usual proverbs. We hear from Augur, King Lemuel, and even get a whole section on, like, the ideal woman.
So much to unpack. I think one thing that really strikes me about Proverbs is how it tackles these huge sea themes in such a short, to the point way. Like, man, right in Proverbs 28.1, we get this stark contrast the wicked versus the righteous. The wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion.
Wow.
What hits you about that verse when you read it?
Well, I mean, just on the surface, it seems to be saying that folks living righteously, they've got this inner confidence, right? But the wicked lack.
But I think it goes deeper than that. The wicked, even when they seem successful, they're always looking over their shoulder, haunted by what they've done.
Hmm.
They're running from something, even if nobody's chasing them.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you think of all those people, the high-profile types who seem to have it all, but they're always in some scandal or lawsuit. Could it be their success is just covering up inner turmoil?
It's definitely possible. And I think that links to another big theme in these proverbs, the idea that true strength comes from being good, being honest.
Hmm.
The righteous are bold as a lion, not because they're bullies, but because they're grounded in their values.
So it's not outward stuff like looks or even worldly success, but about that deep down strength from living aligned with what you believe. You got it. And that's a message that is just as important now as it was back then. We get bombarded with messages about what success is supposed to be, but Proverbs is like, nope, true fulfillment comes from living right.
And Proverbs doesn't sugarcoat things either. It talks about poverty and wealth straight up, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And what's wild is it doesn't romanticize being poor either. Proverbs 28.3 compares a poor man who oppresses others to, like, a driving rain that leaves no food. Stark image, right?
Yeah.
Anyone, rich or poor, can choose to be a jerk and take advantage of others.
So it's like Proverbs wants us to look past the surface stuff about money and all that and actually see the character of the person.
Exactly. And time again, it slams those who exploit the poor. Proverbs 29.4 warns that taking bribes ruins the land. And 29.7, it highlights how the righteous, they genuinely care about the rights of the poor. That was radical back then, and sadly, still is today.
Makes you think about our own attitudes, right? Do we sometimes judge people based on what they have instead of seeing them as people with their own stories and struggles?
It's a question we should all ask ourselves, honestly. These proverbs, they encourage us to see these complex issues with more nuance, to recognize that we're all human, regardless of our circumstances.
That reminds me of a line from Proverbs 29.3 that really stuck with me. It says, "The poor and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives light to the eyes of both." Deep, right? It's like saying there's a connection between people who seem totally different.
Absolutely. It's almost like it's reminding us that we're all part of the same human family, no matter our social status or income level.
Yeah.
And maybe it's hinting that even when someone's being oppressed, there's a spark of, I don't know, something divine in them.
Powerful imagery. And that leads us to another fascinating theme, family relationships, and specifically parenting.
Oh, yeah. Proverbs has a lot to say about raising kids, and it's not always what you'd expect. There are actually a bunch of warnings about spoiling kids, about letting them have their way all the time.
Really?
Yeah, Proverbs 29.1, 5 and 21, they both warn against it, saying it'll lead to shame and rebellion.
Huh. That seems to go against a lot of modern parenting advice, doesn't it? Tough love isn't exactly trendy these days.
True. But these proverbs, they're suggesting that sometimes setting boundaries and expecting a lot from your kids is a form of love. It's about preparing them for the real world, helping them develop the strength they'll need.
It's got to be a tough balance, right? Being supportive, but also holding them accountable.
It is.
Do you think Proverbs gives any clues about how to find that balance?
Well, they definitely stress being consistent and communicating clearly. Proverbs 29.15 mentions the rod of discipline, which I think can be interpreted metaphorically, right? Like
Yes.
setting clear boundaries and consequences for their actions. But it's not about being mean or punishing them. It's about providing structure and guidance with love.
So, teaching them that actions have consequences, good and bad, and that they have the power to choose.
Exactly, and I think that connects to another major theme running through Proverbs: self-control.
Oh, right. Proverbs 29.11 straight up says, "A fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps himself under control." So, controlling our emotions, especially anger, it's important not just for us, but for anyone in a leadership role.
Totally. Proverbs 29.1 even points out that a ruler who listens to lies ends up with corrupt advisors, meaning a leader who can't control themselves, they'll make decisions based on feelings instead of wisdom, which, let's be honest, can be disastrous.
We've seen that happen all throughout history, even today, haven't we? Leaders who only want yes men around them, they often make bad calls that hurt the people they're supposed to be leading.
A great observation. It really highlights how important it is to be self-aware and to control our reactions, especially if we're in charge of anything.
Things take a bit of a different turn when we hit Proverbs 30, where we meet Agur. His style feels different, more philosophical, like he's asking a lot of questions.
Definitely. Agur's Proverbs, they're deeper, more thoughtful. He starts by admitting, I am certainly more stupid than any man, nor have I learned wisdom, nor do I have the knowledge of the Holy One.
I find that so refreshing, admitting what you don't know to learn and grow.
It is. And makes you wonder if he's doing that on purpose, as a literary device, to get us thinking, get us to question our own assumptions. Could admitting we don't know everything be the path to actual wisdom?
Such a thought-provoking idea. And then there's King Lemuel with his very specific advice, especially about the dangers of power. Do not give your strength to women or your ways to that which destroys kings. It is not for kings to drink wine or for rulers to desire intoxicating drink.
Yeah.
What do you think about those warnings?
Well, back then, kings had so many temptations thrown at them, and booze could easily lead to bad choices and abuse of power. So I think Lemuel's stressing self-discipline, especially for those in charge.
Makes you wonder what he must have seen in his own life to give such pointed advice. Was he watching other rulers crash and burn because they couldn't control themselves?
It's possible. And it underlines the idea that being a leader isn't just about power, but about character. A wise ruler gets that holding back is key, that their power is meant for good.
And finally, we reach one of the most famous parts of Proverbs, the description of the excellent wife, in 31.031. This gets interpreted as a checklist for women a lot, but I feel like there's so much more to it than that.
Absolutely. You have to remember, this is poetry. It's meant to inspire admiration, not be a literal to-do list.
Right.
And even though it's addressed to a woman, the qualities it describes are valuable for everyone, no matter who you are.
For sure. This woman is strong, she's capable, hardworking, she handles money, takes care of her family, and the poor, even runs her own business.
A total powerhouse. And it's super interesting to think about the context historically. Women in ancient Israel had very few rights, but this passage is celebrating their strength, their resilience, even their potential for leadership.
So is this an impossible ideal?
Yeah.
Or is it trying to change things by showing what women are capable of, even in a time when they were held back?
That's a great question. I think it's probably a little of both. It's definitely idealized, but it's also pushing back against the limitations on women in that society.
And I love how it ends. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. It's a great reminder that real beauty is about character, not just how you look. And that's something everyone can relate to, don't you think?
Definitely. It's about developing the good stuff inside, the integrity, the kindness, the compassion, the wisdom. That's what makes a life truly meaningful.
We've covered so much ground here. From wicked versus righteous to the complexities of wealth, poverty, parenting, leadership, and even what true beauty is. It's amazing how these little sayings spark such deep thinking.
It is. And the most remarkable thing, they're still so relevant. They offer this timeless guidance that can help us navigate life, our personal relationships, and even how we fit into society as a whole. It's like holding up a mirror, right? You see your good side, your bad side, and where you can grow. What hit you the hardest from all these ancient sayings? Any verse you're going to carry with you this week?
I keep fighting myself going back to that image of the wicked running away even when no one's chasing them. From Proverbs 28.1,
Yeah.
it's such a powerful image. Like our actions, they can create this inner turmoil, this feeling of being haunted, even if nobody else knows what we did.
It's like they're carrying around the weight of their own guilt.
Yeah.
Even if they manage to escape any consequences from the outside world, can they ever really find peace? if they're not living in line with their own values.
Exactly. And that idea, living in line with your values, it seems like it's at the core of so many of these proverbs. The righteous are described as bold, not because they're fearless, but because they're grounded in integrity. Their actions and their words match up, and that builds a kind of inner strength that can handle anything.
Hmm.
And it's interesting how Proverbs really emphasizes the impact that both righteousness and wickedness have on the community. It's not just about individual morality, but about how our choices affect the people around us. A righteous leader, for example, brings stability and prosperity, but a corrupt one can cause a lot of suffering.
Yeah, and that's spelled out so clearly in Proverbs 28:12. It contrasts the rejoicing that happens when the righteous win with the fear and hiding that comes when the wicked take power. Our actions, especially when we're in positions of authority, they have ripple effects that go way beyond ourselves.
Speaking of impact, the proverbs about wealth and poverty, they really made me think about my own assumptions. It's easy to equate wealth with success or judge people based on their economic status.
It is. And these proverbs remind us that true worth isn't about money or possessions. It's about things like integrity, compassion, and justice. Those are the qualities that really matter.
I was really struck by that verse, Proverbs 29:13, that talks about how the Lord gives light to the eyes of both the poor and the oppressor. It's like it's saying that even in people who seem completely different from us, even in those who might be our adversaries, there's a spark of something divine.
It's profound, isn't it? It invites us to look beyond surface differences and recognize our shared humanity, a call for empathy and understanding, even when there's conflict or injustice.
And speaking of conflict, those parenting proverbs had some interesting things to say about navigating family dynamics. I know some people might find them harsh or outdated, but I actually found them pretty insightful.
Me too. They offer a perspective that you don't hear much in modern parenting advice. A reminder that sometimes love means setting firm boundaries and having high expectations. It's not about being punitive, but about giving our kids the tools they need to thrive.
Right, it's about finding that balance between support and accountability, which ties in really well with that proverb about fools losing their temper and wise people staying in control. Self-control is such a critical skill, not just for parents, but for leaders and for just navigating life in general.
Absolutely. It's recognizing that we don't have to let our emotions control us. We can choose to respond thoughtfully instead of just reacting impulsively. And that ability to manage our emotions, that's key for good decision-making and healthy relationships.
Adding Ugur and King Lemuel's words to this collection of proverbs really added another layer of depth and intrigue. Augur's humility, his willingness to question his own understanding, I found that so refreshing. It's like he's showing us the kind of intellectual honesty that's essential for true learning and growth.
Yeah, his approach is different from the typical sage who just lays down the law from a position of authority. He admits what he doesn't know and invites us along on this journey of exploration and discovery. Real wisdom isn't about having all the answers, it's about being open to new perspectives and always searching for understanding.
And then King Lemuel, with his very specific warnings about the traps of power, his advice about not overindulging and surrounding yourself with wise counsel, that all seems incredibly relevant, even today.
It does, doesn't it? It's a good reminder that power without integrity and self-control can easily lead to corruption. We need to seek out diverse perspectives and be willing to listen to people who might challenge our assumptions, even when it's uncomfortable.
And finally, that iconic portrait of the excellent wife in Proverbs 31. I love how it moves past stereotypical ideas about women and celebrates their strength, resourcefulness, and entrepreneurial spirit.
And you have to think about the historical context, the fact that women in that society had very few rights or opportunities, yet this poem elevates them to a place of honor and respect.
It's almost like a subversive text.
Right.
It challenges the norms by showing how much women contribute to their families, communities, and the world.
Totally agree. And in the end, it defines true worth not by looks or societal expectations, but by the qualities of character that come from a relationship with God. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised.
And that message goes way beyond gender. It reminds us that real beauty is about integrity, kindness, compassion, and wisdom. Those are qualities that are available to all of us.
Absolutely. It's about nurturing those inner virtues that shine outward and have a lasting impact on the world around us.
These proverbs are just packed with wisdom and insight. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Proverbs 28 through 31, what's one question that you're left pondering?
That's a tough one. But I think what I keep coming back to is this idea of balancing personal responsibility with social justice. Proverbs seems to emphasize both. It calls us to live with integrity and make wise choices, but it also urges us to speak up for the vulnerable, challenge injustice, and work towards a more righteous society.
Yeah, like those proverbs that warn against showing favoritism, that remind us to care about the rights of the poor and marginalized. It's not enough to just live a good life ourselves. We need to use our voices and actions to make a difference in the world.
You got it. And that's a powerful challenge, isn't it? It's about recognizing that our choices are all connected and that true righteousness means working towards a more just world for everyone.
It's like we're being called to actually live out these proverbs, not just admire them, but put them into practice.
Exactly. So as you go about your week, I'd encourage you to think about this.
Mhm.
Where do you see opportunities to not only live out the wisdom of Proverbs in your own life,
Mm.
but also to advocate for justice and righteousness in your community? How can you use your unique gifts and talents to make a positive impact on the world?
What a powerful thought to leave us with. Proverbs may be ancient, but its wisdom is timeless. And it's up to each of us to take those words to heart and let them guide our actions in the world today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Proverbs.
It's almost like we're being asked to be walking, talking Proverbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
To not just think about these things, but to actually live them out, to really embody them in our action.
To put those words into action in the real world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings up, well, for me at least, the question that I keep coming back to, even as we wrap up this deep dive. How do we balance personal responsibility with working for social justice? Seems like Proverbs is stressing both, you know. It tells us to live with integrity and make good choices for ourselves, but also to speak up for those who are vulnerable, to challenge injustice, to try and create a society that's more righteous.
Like those verses that tell us not to play favorites, to be concerned about the rights of the poor and those who are often pushed aside. It suggests that just being a good person isn't enough. We have to actually do something, use our voices, use our actions to make the world a better place.
Exactly. It's a tall order, isn't it? Recognizing that our choices have an impact on everyone, and that being truly righteous means working towards a world that's more just and fair for everyone.
Powerful stuff. So as we finish up our deep dive into Proverbs, what's one final thought that you'd like to leave our listeners with? Something for them to chew on, maybe something we didn't get to cover directly.
You know, I think it all comes back to action. As you're going through your week, think about this. Where do you see chances to not just live by the wisdom of Proverbs yourself, but to actually fight for justice and what's right in your own community? How can you use your own unique talents, your own skills to make a real difference in the world around you? That's what I'll be thinking about.
That's a great challenge to leave us with. Proverbs may be ancient, but its wisdom is definitely timeless. And it's up to all of us to really take those words to heart and let them shape how we live in the world today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Proverbs. We'll see you next time.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.